Okay, everybody, welcome. We better make a start because we've got an hour and 15 minutes for our session. Thanks, everybody, for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed the trek and the extensive tour. This is the scenic route to get to this particular session, so that might be the highlight. I hope we can keep on a roll and keep things interesting for you. Just to make sure that after that trek you have come to the right seminar, this one is called Helping Households Maximise Incomes and Addressing the Impact of negative incomes, negative budgets, and low awareness of benefits. So essentially, we've got an hour and 15 minutes for this session. We've got 4 speakers. I'll be introducing you to them shortly, and they'll be giving us some brief presentations. And essentially what they'll be doing is telling us how their organisations are responding to the energy crisis and the cost of living crisis. The primary purpose of this breakout session, though, is to have discussion in the room. So what I'm hoping is that we'll hear from our speakers. We'll hopefully hear from them about that prompting the discussion that we'll then be having between us all about how your organisations are responding and what your issues are, and hopefully having an opportunity to share in this session. First of all, a bit of an introduction to myself. My name's Peter Sumby. I'm NEA's Director of Communities. So essentially what that means is I'm responsible for the teams at NEA who deliver direct programmes of support, of advice services, fuel poverty support to low-income and vulnerable householders. And we do that primarily through energy advice. We do it through advocating on behalf of householders to their energy companies, seeking to resolve billing issues, energy debt, also enabling people to access sources of funding, industry funding, other sources of funding. We've also got a specialist team of benefits advisors, recognising that sometimes the best thing you can do, especially at the moment, for a householder that's experiencing difficulty, is to maximise their incomes. So our session will be looking at how we help households, but in the context of an unprecedented situation, the energy crisis, the cost of living crisis. And I think it's probably fair to say that the solutions that we've traditionally applied, our expertise in our organisations, has never been more challenged to deal with the reality that 6.5 million households are dealing with in the UK daily. We've got this phenomenon of negative, that's a difficult word, I always get it wrong. We've got that issue of negative budgets, where a combination of low incomes and soaring household costs means that many households turn to us for advice, simply don't have enough coming in to pay their essential bills, with the consequence that they're either facing mounting debt or going without essentials, or both. So what our session tries to do, I think, here is to focus on incomes and benefits, but we don't have to be constrained by that as our only topic areas. We're hearing from our speakers, and we'll hopefully learn something about the resilience in our organisation of responding to those issues. But also I'd like to think in our discussion areas, we'll get to talk about what more we need to do to support each other in trying to kind of navigate our ways through what is very much an unprecedented crisis. So, no further ado, I'm going to introduce the first of our speakers. I'd like to invite Linda Tookey from Vivid Homes, Money Advice and Benefits Manager, to come up and give us your presentation, Linda. Thank you.
I might have to stand to the side because I can't see anybody because I'm a bit short. Yes, I'm the Money Advice and Benefits Manager at Vivid. We're a large housing association in Hampshire and bits around Hampshire. This is one of our customers. Her name's Mary. She's also one of my team members. So she's a Money Advice and Benefits advisor. And she is busy, as we're speaking now, out visiting customers and trying to maximise their income. So our mantra in the Money Advice and Benefits team is maximising income, minimising expenditure, and we do that in a number of ways. Is it the mouse or the button? Oh, here we go. I thought actually though, first of all, we should look at what the problem is. We've talked a lot today about the high cost of energy, but what we haven't really addressed, other than really skirting around the edges of it, is the low incomes that people are living on. So I thought it would be really interesting to look at some of the research that the Joseph Rowntree Foundation have been undertaking with the Trestle Trust about what the gap is between what the actual benefit income is a lot of people are getting compared to what they actually need. And they've come up with this idea of an essentials guarantee, that instead of plucking a figure from the air, which is what the government does at the moment when looking at benefits, the level of benefits, and then if they're feeling really good that they'll put that benefit level up by the rate of inflation, we'll pass over the bit where they froze it for 4 years, which has really had a very bad effect on people on benefits. But looking at the gap between what people get and what they need. So for a single person, they've estimated that 120 would probably cover stuff at the moment, but actually what people get on basic benefits is £85 a week. And if you think about how you'd manage on £85 a week, it's really difficult. So we get referrals from our income officers asking us to help people budget. Well, I can't tell anybody who's on £85 a week how they're going to budget, because it's impossible. You know, we try everything that we can, so we refer people to pantries, we're funding pantries, that kind of stuff. But please do go and have a look at the Essentials Guarantee if you're not aware of it, and your organisation would be really useful if you could also support the call for that Essentials Guarantee. Don't forget as well that this is for people over 25, I was mentioning. If they're under 25, it's £67 a week. I mean, it's just unreasonable. But we do something called a pre-tenancy assessment when we have a new customer coming into one of our properties, and we assess what their income is and whether the property is affordable. We don't refuse many people, because what are the alternatives? But when somebody's on £67 a week, they just can't manage, and sometimes we have to say to them, you need to be in shared accommodation or something different unless we can get extra benefits for you in some way. So looking at what we do internally, we've got quite a big tenancy support team, and I must congratulate Vivid for this. They've put their money where their mouth is. We've got 19 full-time equivalent money advice and benefits people working busily away. We've got about 34,000 properties, so that's quite a large team. We've got 6 independent living people. We've got 7 full-time equivalent employment and training people with a little bubble in them. I didn't see that. It's just a bit of attractiveness there. We've got a wellbeing team because lots of people are really struggling with their mental health at the moment. So Vivid decided that they were going to try and do what they could for those people. They don't give clinical advice, but what they do is they make sure that our customers are tied in with their GP or the mental health services locally to try and help them there. We've got a tenancy sustainment team that do things like addressing hoarding, trying to help people to downsize because of the bedroom tax, and a digital inclusion officer. So that's just basically what the team's about. What we try and do in the money advice and benefits team is we try to be experts. You can't play at giving benefit advice, I don't think. You really do need to be as expert at it as you can be, and as we all know, it's complicated. Universal credit's been introduced to try and simplify the system. It might do one day, I suppose, but at the moment it's much more complicated than it ever was, because we're working with legacy benefits and universal credit and trying to assess whether somebody's better staying on legacy benefits or going on to universal credit, with all that entails, with all the claimant commitments, the minimum income floors, all of those issues that people have. So we do what we can to try and keep ourselves upskilled. We work a lot with the Child Poverty Action Group and their judicial review advisors. So we quite often threaten judicial review on issues to try and get the best outcome we can for customers when we believe that something's not working right. For example, we've got somebody who's on maternity leave, they've just had twins, they want to go back to work, they can't afford the £900 a month up front, they need to pay for childcare to go back to work. So they applied for funding from the Future Job Fund from the Job Centre, and the Job Centre has told them it doesn't apply if you're on maternity. If it was a new job, we'd pay you, but because you're returning to work, we won't pay you. So we're in the process of threatening judicial review with that customer at the moment to try and get them the funding that they need for that. We also work with the National Housing Federation, Inside Housing. I'll show you a film that we've worked on recently with them. And Policy and Practice, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they have a benefit calculator that we use, which is really very clever. So, you know, it's garbage in, garbage out, obviously, but as long as you know what you're doing and you put it in right, it will work out all of the different options for that. And we're also working with them on, it is in other parts of the country. We're working with them, so we get a little button on the calculator so we can apply for the water social tariff for customers. If when we've done their calculation, they can then apply for that direct, which is, would be really helpful, because as we know, lots of people aren't applying for that social housing, for that social tariff. I just wanted to tell you a bit about two of our customers. This is obviously not Gina Lola Brigida really, but I didn't have a picture of my customer, so I thought she looked rather lovely. So tell you about Gina. So she was a customer I worked with. She was, we texted everybody in about 2019 when the settled status was being introduced. So we trawled our data and we texted everybody we could think of that we thought might be an EU citizen and might need to apply for settled status. We didn't want them to miss the deadline, so we texted them. She responded to that text. We didn't get many responses, but she responded to that text, Gina, and said, "Oh, thank you for thinking about me," and we had a little chat about what she was living on. Turned out that in 2010, when she became seriously ill, she'd applied for benefits, and at that stage, they decided that she didn't have a right to reside in the UK. They didn't tell her that. What they told her was that she had too much capital, and that's what they wrote the decision on. And they did that because their systems wouldn't allow them to make the decision that they wanted to do. So it was just a workaround. And she'd been fighting this fight for a number of years, saying, "I don't have that amount of capital." But in the end, she gave up. So when I spoke to her, we then took the case up again. And I'm pleased to say that we managed to get a £53,000 back date, which obviously makes a hell of a difference to somebody in her circumstance. She'd lived for those 12 years without that income and has now got the income that she deserves. The other person, one of our customers, that is Robin. He's very kindly helped, agreed to being in that. He had an industrial accident, fell off the back of a lorry and was unable to work. He'd worked all his life. He's now living, or was living, on basic universal credit, which, as I said, is about £85 a week, finding it really difficult to cope. My colleague Jack in my team worked with him and now has got him an extra £390 a month to live on going forward, and obviously arrears from that, and is also looking to get PIP for him. It's not the answer to everything. Some people aren't entitled to extra benefits, but where we can identify that people are entitled to extra money, we'll do what we can to get it for them. We'll also advise them about insolvency options, DROs, bankruptcies, debt management plans, all that kind of stuff. I've only got 5 minutes, so I think I've just about come to that, but I'm just going to play you my little film that we've got, which is Robin just talking about what he thought of the help that we'd given him. If I can get it to work. Hang on a second. Oh.
Ever since I've been out of work, I felt like I've been in that situation, because I'm not with the benefits you're getting, it's not covering the basics at the end of the day. Because with the cost of living, if everything's gone up, as we all know, you can't afford to get certain foods. That's the usual way up. What's more important, heat or food?
Is that it?
Yeah,
No, that's it.
brilliant. Okay, well that was good that we heard from Robin.
Yeah, if we didn't.
It's good to see. Brilliant, thanks very much, Linda. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, any questions you've got, if you could hold them just till we've heard from all of our speakers, and then we'll have a session where we can ask questions and have debate and discussion. So I'm going to invite second speaker to come up, and it's Earl, isn't it? Second one? Yeah, so Earl, if I could invite Earl Richards to come and speak to me. Now, I've worked with Earl for many years now, and first of all, thanks very much to Cadent for co-sponsoring our conference. So thanks for that, Earl.
Can't take credit for that.
But yeah, if I can invite you to come and talk to us here. Cheers, Earl.
Afternoon, everybody. I hope we're all having a great day. So thank you, Peter, for the introduction. As you said, my name is Earl Richards. I work for Cadent Gas, and my role within the business is I'm a regional technical manager for our services beyond the meter programme that I will touch on in a moment. So today I'll be going through a few points and a couple of slides and keeping it to the time. I'll get Peter looking at me going, quick one. But we'll be looking at who is Cadent and what's our role in the energy industry. And we'll be looking at the vulnerability and carbon monoxide allowance that is a great initiative that was that Ofgem provide the GDNs with a pot of money that we can do. We can help people in fuel poverty and raise their awareness about carbon monoxide. And our approach to supporting customers who need prioritising, so our customers who could be, who are in vulnerable situations. And then go through some of the work that we do under the vulnerability and carbon monoxide allowance known as the VCMA. And a quick look at some of a shout out to the great partners that we work with. And then if there's any questions, yeah, hold them till the end and hopefully I can answer them off. So, who is Cadent and who are the GDNs? So the GDNs is the gas distribution networks. And in the UK, there is 8 networks in total, and Cadent operate 4 of those gas networks, ranging from up in the lakes in the northwest, down the northwest into the West Midlands, across to the east of England, as north as Doncaster, and down East Anglia of England into North London. So what do we actually do? What do Cadent do and what do the gas networks do? So we operate the National Gas Emergency phone line. So if you ever smell gas or suspect a smell of gas or carbon monoxide, you phone the 0800 111 number and we will dispatch an engineer within 1 or 2 hours to come to your property or come to a location where the smell of gas has been reported and we'll investigate it. We also maintain and repair the network of gas pipes, what's in the road, up to the in-home or end-user control valve, and known for in the road where you see the barriers and the traffic lights. We also responsible for upgrading the gas network to become safer and more reliable through replacing the old metallic mains to new plastic polyethylene pipe. What we don't do as a gas network, though, is we don't have a direct relationship with customers through energy bills or other sorts of means. And we do not produce a bill for the gas emergency and mains replacement. Instead, these are paid through the standing charge that we all pay. We distribute gas to 11 million homes and businesses through a network of 80,000 miles of pipe. So we have a big responsibility of what's going on in the ground. So that's a bit about Cadent and the other gas distribution networks. So the VCMA, the vulnerability and carbon monoxide allowance. So this is a pot of money what's given to the gas networks in the current price controls, so RIIO-2. And this allowance is to be used over a 5-year period between April 2021 and March 2026. So it's a total to an allowance of 60 million across the networks, and it's also then split out by network size. And this allowance is ring-fenced for vulnerability activities focused on carbon monoxide awareness and fuel poverty. So we cannot take this money from Ofgem and then use it to improve our current BAU processes or anything that we're currently under our licence condition. This has got to be out of the box thinking that what can we do differently today as a gas distribution network where we visit homes, we visit the homes on our network, we visit our communities, how can we raise awareness of carbon monoxide and help people in fuel poor situations. And how we're measured against spending that money is something called social return on investment. So we must generate a positive social return on investment for the money that we spend on these projects and programs. And Cadent's share of the money is, well, 49.8, it's about 50%, equals about 30 million. And we have currently invested around 11 million on over 100 projects to date. So our approach to supporting customers in those areas that I've mentioned, so our overall delivery of the vulnerability and carbon monoxide allowance and its support of customers, that are priority customers, can be split into 4 key areas. So these kind of commitments. That's identifying individual needs and joining up services. So as an example, if we recognise a customer who could be on the Priority Services Register, the PSR, we'll have that conversation. Are they aware of the Priority Services Register, and do they want to be on it? And obviously if we're on it, we can join up and we can put them on it, what's used for various other things in the energy industry. Carbon monoxide awareness. So I'll talk in a moment in detail about a couple of the initiatives that we do around this, but this is raising awareness of carbon monoxide, whether we're in the home of a customer who's reported a smell of gas or carbon monoxide, or we're having a conversation here today. If somebody visits our stand, we can have a conversation about what we're doing around carbon monoxide, and do people know the dangers of carbon monoxide and what are the signs and symptoms to look out for. And then tackling affordability and fuel poverty. So again, when we're having conversations or we're working with our national partners, how do we give the people energy advice that they need, or income maximisation advice, all these services to help people in the current climate. And then one that I'm involved in heavily is going beyond to never leave a customer vulnerable without gas. So where I had the slide of what is a GDN's responsibility, piping gas in the ground to your home, actually what can we do more in a home? We're renowned for going to an emergency situation and turning somebody off, but we know that when we turn somebody off, we're potentially leaving them that person vulnerable or more vulnerable. So what can we do? Can we direct them to schemes where they could have a repair or replacement of the appliance? Could we fix that repair or replace that appliance? So that's kind of what is going beyond what we're currently under our license condition and going that bit further for the customer. So some of the work we do, so services beyond the meter, so great initiative that we wouldn't have done hadn't it been for the VCMA, because again, that money needs to be spent with thinking outside the box and what we don't currently do today. So within Services Beyond the Meter, the programme offers a wide range of tools to our engineers to help customers who could be or who are in a vulnerable situation. So the One Number programme, well currently we work with the NEA on half of the region, half of our networks, and that is where our engineers, if they go to a property today and they isolate a gas appliance or the installation, they can refer that customer to the One Number programme to see if they are eligible for further assistance. Now that could be anything from a replacement of a cooker, a pipework repair, to actually a full new central heating. There was an instance yesterday, a case I'm currently dealing with, where a 70-year-old couple, they've had no boiler for 8 years. And we've gone to a gas leak from the cooker, we've isolated the cooker, we've referred them for a new cooker, but when we've done further investigation with that customer, they have had no boiler for 8 years. And there's people every day. And the more we talk about this programme, the more people we're finding in these situations. Upskilled engineers. So we're actually upskilling our engineers within the business to do more. So our role again is we go out to a smell of gas or a suspected carbon monoxide leak, and we look for that leak, and if we find something, we turn the supply off, and then the customer is directed to a gas safe engineer. We're doing more in this space. We're actually upskilling our engineers. Go back to the day where we was one gas board essentially and did everything. We're going back to that in the right areas of where customers don't know where to get help, nor can they afford help. But our engineers can do more on site. We're giving them the skill, and we're giving them the skills and the tools that they can actually look what's the problem on site. So if there is something that they can repair or they can replace or investigate, our engineers will do that. And supporting charities as well, with our engineers to undertake safety checks and servicing in homes where appliances haven't been serviced. So we're funding through the programme charities what work in local communities, going round door to door, offering people energy advice, giving people income benefit maximisation support, teaching them the dangers of carbon monoxide, but also if they spot that they haven't been able to afford, nor have they known to service the gas appliance every 12 months, they refer that to us, and our engineers are going out and using this money to go out and service the appliances and make sure they're safe. What then leads on to, if they're not safe, links us back to the One Number programme. Then we've got our Centres for Warmth. So another fantastic project. So our Centres for Warmth has been created as a new method for engaging and supporting priority customers. So where on the services beyond the meter that we may get somebody refer us into that household, or we may get into that household because of a suspected gas or CO leak, by Centres for Warmth, we can reach a wider community. So we take community centres, what are usually in the most deprived areas of our networks and close to where we're undertaking mains replacement works. And Cadent fund the centres through the allowance to provide advice workers and offer help towards core costs to keep the doors open. So I was in one last week, and you know, somebody can go and sit there, have a cup of tea, have a discussion and get energy advice, or if they're off gas or any reason or anything anything they worry about, they just want to chat really, they go into the Centre for Warmth and they can find out more about the services that we offer, and they all intertwine with each other. Without this funding, many of these community centres would have closed as well. So by the Centres for Warmth and as working in partnership with these communities, we've been able to keep these community centres open. And they really are a lifeline to so many customers as well, with the help that's offered to them. And then finally, in our carbon monoxide and energy advice, so our support for carbon monoxide education and energy advice across all our networks through a range of different formats. So we go into schools. We offer carbon monoxide education in schools. I think it's around key stage 2. So they go home and they're talking to the parents about carbon monoxide. We give them an alarm so that they go home. So if we've got a carbon monoxide alarm, this is what it's for. Our engineers and CO related programs, we hand out thousands of alarms per year. It's massive. And our engineers can now provide on-site or refer a customer for energy and income advice. So we've trained our frontline staff and our services beyond the meter engineers that once they've done a bit of this work, once they've repaired or placed an appliance, they can then give energy advice on site. You know what happens if you turn your thermostat down by a degree. You know, if you keep the pan on your lid, this is how much money you could save. Going a long way actually having those interaction one-to-one conversations with customers on site. And yeah, this one's coming soon, but we have a vehicle doing a series of tours, branded as well, going around the networks to stop in local centres and provide customers with energy advice and similar services. And a few points there, a couple of points to highlight. The work we've done today has generated more than 200 jobs on these programmes. And from the current work we do, our projected 5-year social return on investment is to be over 487 million, so a big number. So it's it's a really important way of funding these projects, and yeah, there's some great outcomes. And then just a few of a snapshot of the great work that goes on with some of our national partnerships there. And on that note, I'll hand you back to Peter. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Earl, and so great to hear about so much of the fantastic stuff that Cadent are doing, that the GDNs in your areas might be doing as well, but also stuff that maybe we didn't realise, we didn't know how much activity is going on that Cadent are delivering, and working with partners, enabling partners to deliver is fantastic stuff. Right, I'm going to invite Rob Sandalls to come and talk to us now. Rob's from Stepchange. At NEA we do energy advice, we do income maximisation advice, we help people with their energy debts, but we're not a money advice agency. We have to refer people on to specialists who can take that on and do that, and Stepchange is one of the partners of choice that we would always seek to refer people on to. But Rob, if I can hand over to you.
Hello, I'm Rob from Stepchange. Just to give this some context, I've been at the charity for 25 years. I'm currently the Utilities Partnership Manager. I'm going to talk a lot about the front line, so just to give you some context. I did do 10 years on the front, and when I talk about the front line, I mean the guys on the front line giving the advice day to day. I think the job, let's pull up the first slide actually. I would start off by saying the last 2 years have been a real challenge. Now, I haven't done debt advice for the best part of 20 years, and part of my role now means that I sit in with my colleagues on the front line, listening into calls as they come into the charity, listening with our partners, giving them a flavour of what's happening on the front line. And although the job description has not changed, it's a different job as far as I'm concerned. It was, I tip my hat to every debt advisor that I call listen with now, and I make a point of spending time with them afterwards just to say, look, I really respect what you're doing. I did the job. We've got 1,200 colleagues, so not everybody will know me, but I just say, when I was doing the job, there was a lot more variety in the job. There was a lot more fluidity. You had a lot more tools in your armoury where you could help clients. We had far less of these deficit budgets, which is one of the things we're here to talk to today. The job certainly had more variety, and there were less clients who at the end of the advice process you couldn't help than is true today. There are so many clients that we speak to, and this has come up a couple of times today, and I'm really passionate about this. There's no more frustrating feeling than getting to the end of a call or speaking to someone for a length of time who you've thrown the kitchen sink at, you've left no stone unturned, and yet you can't make their budget balance. There's no more you can do. They still can't afford their ongoing energy costs. I see lots of nodding heads, which is great. So what I want to do is just have a little look at the last 2 years. Just in a snapshot, I'm happy to elaborate in questions after everyone's spoken. So currently, the energy crisis, 25% of our clients currently have energy or electricity arrears, 20% have gas arrears. Currently, 24% of our clients say that the cost of living is the main reason for them being in debt in the first place. An increase in interest rates means that now 20% of our clients have got mortgage arrears. You'll notice a pattern here. I'm going to keep going back 20 years in time. Mortgage arrears 20 years ago were almost as rare as hen's teeth. We didn't really come across mortgage arrears. It's a very common occurrence these days. More deficit budgets or negative budgets, however you want to refer to them, currently 37% of our clients, or 49% of our clients that are claiming universal credit claimants are in this position. Great to hear what Vivid Homes are doing. I love those success stories, the 53,000. Why do those... It frustrates the hell out of me sometimes that we need to talk about those stories, because we shouldn't hear those stories. This should... Anyway, we won't get into the politics of that. That's a rise of 14% since 2019. And we're at the I know 37% of clients in a negative budget or deficit budget is a high number. That's not as high as our friends and colleagues at National Debt Line. And again, that's not as high as our friends and colleagues at Citizens Advice, where their number of clients that's north of 50% of clients who, despite all the best endeavours, have got not enough money coming in to pay their basic living costs. Just a little reminder, we're the 6th richest nation in the world, I think. Anyway, I'm trying not to make this too political. Average priority arrears for our clients have increased over the last 12 months from 1,546 to 1,821. It's a bleak picture, you're getting the theme. And client situations are now more complex than they have ever been. So yes, it's incredibly tough for clients. It's incredibly tough for frontline colleagues. We're very aware of that, and we provide lots of support internally to our colleagues as best we can. The job is different to when I was doing it. I couldn't be a debt advisor now. I don't think I've got the mental headspace left to do that job anymore. So my colleagues on the front line, there aren't any here today, but they know how much I think of them, and I hold them in very high esteem. So what are we doing? Let's try and shed some kind of positivity on what we're seeing. I think this goes without saying, without government intervention, and I know the government would interject and say, yeah, we have intervened, we've done this, we've done that. It's piecemeal. We need more to be done. We need more targeted support for those in need. I suppose if I'm going to make a cheap shot at the government, the EBSS scheme that was rolled out last year was welcome, but they should have taken a little bit more time and should have targeted that payment. I personally didn't need that £400 payment. I'd rather give £1,200 to every person that needs it, and every other two people should, who don't need it should go without. We weren't given the option. We're all taxpayers in the room. I'm making assumptions, but you get the idea. The government need to be doing more. Social tariff has been mentioned many times throughout conference already, so I don't want to labour the point there. They promised us a social tariff. That's not materialised. I've been looking in the long grass. I can't even see it in the long grass, so I don't know where they've kicked it. And if anyone can shed any light on that would be great. We are doing a huge amount of work lobbying for energy debt to be written off for those that can't afford it, and that's a joined up piece of work with NEA, CITE, MAT, lots of other interested parties. Our chair pretty much called out the government in a blog post that he did last week. It was very very well written. So he didn't call out the government, but he pretty much did in all but words. He basically refers to the benefit system, which we could argue whether that's fit for purpose. I think most people in the room would agree it's not. And it was sold to us as this amazing thing that everybody would be online claiming by many years since past. But anyway, he calls that the safety net, and the safety net is not trapping everybody. It's not stopping everybody. Some people are passing straight through that net. And he's called out the government and said bold action, and by bold action we probably mean something. We know the government can do it. Look at COVID, look at the furlough scheme, look at the support that was provided there at very short notice. And yes, it was a bit clunky and it wasn't particularly targeted necessarily at the right groups of people. But the government can act. There is the opportunity for them to step up and provide some real support. We've seen some respite, but this again is a little bit piecemeal. Unfreezing the local housing allowance increases to benefits, but as one of the speakers said earlier, that those benefits have been frozen for 4 years. So you're playing catch up and you haven't even caught up on 2 of those 4 years, and inflation has eroded. Anyway, we're getting very political again. And recent cuts to national insurance for those that are working. So I suppose that there are some green shoots. Some of the great things that I see and I've heard at the conference are lots of examples of collaborative working. I don't think there's one agency that can do everything. I think we need to see more examples of collaboration, working together, using each other's specialties. There isn't. We can't do everything at Stepchange. We do have an income maximisation program in place. We're checking every client. We're trying to tweak and fine tune that. 70% of our clients that come to us for the first time come online, which is not I don't want to say problematic, because it works very well for those clients, but trying to pick out those clients that need income maximisation advice is more difficult online. So we're looking at doing a collaborative piece of work with policy and practice. Somebody else mentioned that. They have a very good welfare benefits checking tool, which includes the water social tariff stuff. These are great ideas and examples of collaborative working. So I think collaboration. We should be doing more together. If you're not working with Stepchange and you want to work with Stepchange, come and talk to me. Reach out to us. That's not me pitching for funding or anything like that. I want to help more people. I've been here 25 years for a reason. I'm passionate about positive client outcomes. I grew up in social housing, so I'm particularly passionate about supporting people in those areas. I don't want to finish on doom and gloom, but I don't want to gloss over anything either. So these are some things to think about as we go about the rest of the conference. 1 in 4 struggling to afford Christmas, rising to 1 in 3 households who have children. 1 in 12, around 4 million people relying on credit to cover costs this Christmas. 1 in 4 say they're going to have to cut back on normal expenses to afford Christmas. And rather sadly, around 2% or 1 million people saying they're not going to celebrate Christmas at all, simply due to the cost. However poor my upbringing was, we always managed to celebrate Christmas. I can feel the political soapbox edging back out, so I'm going to kick that away and concentrate on what we're here to talk about. There's lots of good work going on. Could we do more? Yes, of course we can. We need to work, I hate cliches, we do need to work smarter and not harder. Internally, we're looking even things that blow my mind once we start getting into the realms of AI, which is some of the things we're looking at internally, just to streamline processes, make it easier for clients to access services. AI advances in technology, taking advantage of them. What parts of our process can we automate to make it easier for clients to interact with us so that we can help even more people than we're currently helping? There's lots of great work going on in that space. We're currently working internally on a whole raft of changes, which means partner organisations that we work with, we're going to be able to share much more client data with. So in line with, again, lots of other things that I've heard today, but sharing, we've got information at the moment. We know which clients we speak to should be on the priority services register. Because we don't collect the client's permission to share that data at the moment, I'm looking at a load of data that I could share with Earl that I can't do because we haven't asked the client in the right way, that I could send you a spreadsheet that you, and this is 650,000 clients this year, you can cross-check that. Some of those clients you're going to know about, some you're not. That would be a great example of partnership working, taking things forward, making sure those that need to be on the register, making sure that when debts are being recovered, people are acting responsibly based on information that we've given them, because if the more information they know about their clients, the more likely it is they're going to take appropriate action to help that client, not just to recover the debt, but to see what other information and advice is available. Sorry, it's not better news, but these are the hard realities, aren't they? And I don't think the jobs for frontline people giving debt advice has ever been tougher. I'll finish there. Thank you very much.
And thanks very much, Rob, and absolutely right. I mean, it is a healthy dose of reality, and but that's what we're here to talk about. But also, you've actually done a perfect introduction to our next speaker, because you were talking very much about partnerships and collaboration, and Nai's going to come and tell us about a very innovative partnership collaboration project that SIA partners are leading on. So, Nai Gordon, if I could invite you to come up and speak.
Hi there, everyone. So my name's Nai Gordon. I'm a director at a company called SIA Partners, a management consultancy. But not here to talk about them today, here to talk about this project with Cadent Gas. We've been working on it for about a year now, looking to tackle fuel poverty in a new way, working out, touching on what Rob mentioned there, of new opportunities to leverage collaboration to kind of drive the outcomes that we're looking for. What you can see there on the screen, a diagram very simplistically breaking down fuel poverty into a few different aspects: the high prices, low incomes, and poor energy efficiency of houses. Now, what we've seen in the past is that these individual problems have been tackled with individual solutions. Now, our approach has been trying to kind of turn it on its head and look to see whether we can tackle all at the same time, because I think someone in one of the earlier sessions mentioned how difficult it can be to get a touch point with a customer, and when we do have one, taking advantage of that and delivering as much value as we can with that opportunity. Now, the quote at the bottom is something that popped up in a conversation with Adam from the NEA, and I think Peter actually at the start of the year when we were first discussing this piece of work. that mentioned that the cost of living crisis has led us to a point where organizations, delivery companies, charities are trying to provide any help they can because of the scale of the issue. They're not sticking to their specialty. They're just trying to provide any support they can because of the state of the state that the customer is in. We heard stories earlier. The quote that really got me, I think, in one of the earlier sessions, describing poverty as a thief. That really kind of hit home for me in terms of kind of taking away opportunity from people because of the scale of the scale of the situation. So what I'd like to talk about today is that's a little bit of kind of the rationale of why Cadent wanted to try and approach this differently. What I'll come to next is almost a description of what we designed, what does it look like, and then a little bit about almost the good news, the impact that we've managed to have in a year, which we're really proud of, and I think it's hopefully going to be a great launchpad to take us into 2024. So what you can see here is a breakdown of what we've designed. We've tried to move away from one organization offering one type of support to one group of customers, and we've tried to offer and I won't say every type of support that's needed because it's clearly not every type of support, but you can see along the bottom there 5 of maybe the top things that might be needed by a customer facing fuel poverty. Income maximization, debt support, energy efficiency advice, installation of the bigger measures, and help with their water bills as well. Now, we've tried to tackle this problem by bringing together not only different delivery organizations, and you can see the examples along the bottom there, not just different delivery organizations, but also different funding bodies. Earl mentioned earlier about the VCMA allowance, the amounts of money that are available from different utilities. Now, there are different organizations, the Foundation from Cadent, National Grid, as well as kind of corporate social responsibility funding that's available from elsewhere in the sector that really should be brought together if we can, because we're all tackling the same problem. Duplication leads to inefficiency, and any way that we can bring this together means that we can have kind of a bigger impact if we're if possible. Now, what we've structured here has been applied in 2 pilots, one in Birmingham and one in Cumbria, where we've used the organizations in that customer engagement box in the middle to reach out to customers, to refer them into the process, and to help bring them into a single point of contact, kind of a trusted organization that can effectively refer them on to the organizations at the bottom, almost helping to understand what might be useful, what might help them, bring that all together and kind of make sure that that support is provided for the individual as we go through. Now, what that's hoping to deliver, and we'll go on to a little bit of detail of kind of what that looked like in practice, is that touch point that I mentioned with the customer turning into them receiving every bit of support that they may need. Now, you would hope in the future this turns into a larger range of support. You're looking at things like food banks, support with telecoms, and anything that might be helpful on top of there, but pooling it together so that it's less of a confusing situation for customers. So what I'll do now is talk a little bit about what we've achieved, what's happened. So in Birmingham, we had more than nearly 200 customers now going through the process. In Cumbria, we've had nearly 100. And some of the really encouraging statistics are that we've managed to save more than £2,500 for the individuals that have gone through the process to date. I got a great email last night, which was brilliant to receive before I came here, that there was one household in the Cumbria pilot that had £4,500 worth of debt written off, £2,500 of financial support for that year, and then £1,000 of energy efficiency savings that will hopefully be year on year for the rest of the while they're in that home, that they managed to receive by being referred to multiple different organizations through this work. So that kind of collective impact is really what we were aiming for at the start of this project, and getting kind of examples of that coming through is really encouraging. And I think the one statistic here that that kind of jumps out to me is that in Cumbria, every person that's been through the process has been referred to multiple organisations. They've needed multiple different types of support. And I think that touches on, and I think again Rob mentioned this, how complex cases are these days. So it's kind of, we've found that, we've identified it, and we've been able to help in that place. And I think my hope is that we can continue to do that in the future. So there's a few learnings that we've taken away here, not just positive ones, but some negative ones as well. The biggest challenge that we've found has been engaging customers throughout the entire process. Someone in one of the earlier plenary sessions mentioned how challenging it can be that when a customer receives one single type of support, they feel like that's enough for them, and they're happy, they're satisfied, and they want the support to go elsewhere. Now, I think maintaining that engagement through the process, making sure that you can receive everything, the customers can receive everything that they need, is going to be the really important one. And then sort of a mixed bag in our Birmingham pilot. We had a single source of customers. We worked with the Birmingham City Council, and they very kindly referred individuals into us. Now, we had issues at the start with a slow uptake, just because of a kind of not getting quite the input that we thought we were going to get. For our Cumbria pilot, we were able to kind of put that change things around a little, and by bringing in multiple different engagement partners, working with the council, with the water company, with the gas company, you have multiple routes into this project. We had a real kind of improvement in how quickly we were able to reach the target. So I'll finish up there in terms of my content, but I suppose the two kind of thinking points that I was thinking around coming off the back of this were that it would be great to hear from anyone who would like to be involved in this pilot going forward. We're looking to scale both in Birmingham and then nationally into the new year. So if you're a delivery organisation, if you're aware of funding that's available, please do get in touch. And I think that leads me to kind of the wider conversation that I've been interested in recently, which is how can we combine instant financial support to get people through difficult times like a winter, with the long-term improvements that are needed to make this less of an issue as we move forward. I think tackling just one leaves households wanting, basically, and I think any opportunity we can to tackle both would be great, and I'd love to hear more about it. So, thank you.
Thanks very much, Nye, and I think that's fantastic, because obviously I think one of the things that all the speakers, but what Nye's particularly demonstrated, is that by bringing partners together, the impact can be transformative for some householders. If you're talking about £2,500 or more average savings, these are quite transformative figures. Which would not happen were it not for the fact that organisations are able to come together and have that kind of impact, make that kind of intervention. So thanks very much, Naya. It's really fascinating stuff. And thanks all four speakers. What we've got some time before the end of the session to just open it up for discussion and to ask questions, if there's any questions that you've been saving that you'd like to ask of any of our speakers, or if there's any points that you'd like to make from the floor. I've got a few things I'd like to kind of hopefully draw out of our concluding bit of the session, but we'll open up to questions. By the way, could I just ask if would our speakers mind just bringing their chairs to the front so we can look back on the audience, just in case we've got questions. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, there was a question over here, and we've got a mic as well, so we're going to... Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, there was a question at the back. Thank you.
I can shout quite happily. Okay. All of these services sound absolutely fantastic, but they do sound predominantly as if they're driven by people having access to online services, being able to have support over the phone, and doesn't necessarily take into account the increasing complexity of some of our clients, particularly the mental health services, where they're not sufficiently disabled, perhaps, to qualify for ongoing support work. How would you look at addressing that to actually reach those marginalised groups and disabled clients so I'm going to use that as a catch-all, and I know it's not the most appropriate term, to actually help them engage and stay engaged with the process to actually get the fantastic outcomes that you're getting.
Can we bring the mic to the front, just so that we can... I'm sorry, you're going to do a lot of running around. You'll get your steps in. Right, sorry, who wants to have a tackle? Yeah, thanks, Dave.
In my organisation, we actually do home visits. So I know that we have the luxury there, but we can go and visit anybody in their home. So, yeah, we're lucky like that.
I think you're from Christians Against Poverty. No? Oh, okay. We, in the free debt advice sector, what's happened, probably more slowly than it should have done, is we've all become much better at working with each other. We used to be heavily siloed, and we did our work over there, and CITA did their work over there, and National Debtline were over there, Christians Against Poverty, who offer an invaluable service visiting people in their own homes. We didn't do a lot of joined up working. Now, I started on, I don't want to take up all the time, but a number of years ago, I started off and on it became a 5-year mission, and I visited about 150 different citizens' advice bureaus as they were back then. I know they're not bureaus anymore. And as a result of that, the collaborative work between the two organisations went through the roof. What I was trying to encourage was every organisation has its strengths, and this has come up today. Our strength is online and telephone based, which we freely admit is not for everybody. But what I was saying to Citizens Advice was those customers that you don't make people wait weeks for debt advice, because we can offer same day or next day service, and we've been able to do that steadily for the last 15 years. So those people that are more capable, that can hold a conversation or are digitally, able to start up a debt advice journey, you send those to us, and that will free up your time to help those clients. So there's great examples of collaboration over the years. Just trying to make people as aware of our service as we can. There's many ways to access it, but there's just some examples in there which it's not a perfect fit, and unfortunately people are still being excluded, but we're doing our best to reach those people. One final example, I don't want to take up all the time, we've just created a new service for hard of hearing clients, a brand new service, BSL, for clients that are hard of hearing. So there's another example of how we've adapted to reach another hard or difficult to reach group for us anyway, historically.
Excellent, thanks. Any further questions? We've got, we'll take one here and then one at the back. We're going to keep you busy, Stuart.
Well, who was that, sorry?
I suppose one was an observation, and the other one was sort of a question. We expanded, so I work for Anchor, so we're an over 55s housing association, cover the entirety of England. In January, we expanded our financial inclusion service by 9 advisors. So we've now got 17. And everyone kept saying to us, but surely you've got round everyone by now. And we've gone from 4.4 million last year to being at 5 million, and we're only 9 months into the financial year. So, clearly we're going to sort of nearly double what we did last year just by adding extra advisors. So it's never enough, no matter how much sort of financial inclusion work people put in. But I suppose my question is the group that we're finding. So although we're over 55s, and obviously pensioners are better off in the benefit system, we've got a real problem group of people who are between 55 and pension age who can't go back into work because most of them are off work because of health conditions. Even if they did want to go back into work, they're struggling because essentially no one wants them. And whether any of you have got sort of a thought of targeting that group at all, because from a debt perspective, we also have real difficulties with older people wanting to admit anything when it comes to debt. It's so taboo in their sort of generation that they don't want to put their hands up and say that they've got any issues with it either.
Okay, should we take another question, and then sorry, there was one at the back. Stuart, sorry, apologies. One back here, and then we'll capture that one and come back to the panel.
Thanks. It's a couple of things. So on the connectivity around services, it feels like a really great idea. Are there any thoughts about putting mental and physical health services into those connected groups so that people are being directed to those types of support as well as debt advice? And the second one is that I've been hearing an awful lot of concern that Household Support Fund won't be continued after March next year. And at the moment, a lot of times when people aren't able to afford with the benefits they're entitled to, Household Support Fund is stepping in to fill that void. Is that a concern that you guys share, and are there any plans built around a potential absence of that cash?
Brilliant. Okay, so if we can bring the mic down. So there was a question about targeting a neglected sort of audience over 55s not going back into work. Any thoughts on that from anyone on the panel?
Yeah, I think for the Warm Homes network that we've been working on for the past year, we haven't focused on the over or just under 55 demographic specifically. But what we have been noticing, our approach to trial in Birmingham and then Cumbria looked to understand rural difficulties. Now, that had a typically older demographic. It had it struggled with some of the same issues that you mentioned there, of kind of less willingness maybe to admit to needing support, and kind of a tighter knit community. I think what I could offer there in terms of findings is that we found a need for more specific, more local engagement partners. So people getting in closer to the individuals who needed support. It couldn't be potentially an online outreach, or it couldn't be a kind of a single entity providing all of that. It really needed to rely on kind of a detailed network of the local organizations that really help. And I imagine for each demographic that you're trying to target, you're going to need something similar. You really need to leverage that.
Excellent.
Going back to the over 55s, of which I am one, we too struggle with that. And since the government, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but you used to be able to get pension credit at the age of 60, and you were more or less left alone then. If you know, over 60, they weren't interested in trying to get you back to work, even if you weren't quite pension age, but you could still get pension credit. We do struggle with that area as well, and particularly because a lot of the jobs that those people in that sort of age group who struggle, they've got ill health, they might not be very good at reading and writing. The jobs that they used to go into, like warehouses, all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't exist anymore really in the same way. So we do struggle with that, but we've got an employment and training team, and they do work with those people, and we try and work with the job centre to try and get some sort of understanding. But to be honest, the news isn't good with the disability white paper that's coming along and what they're going to be doing with benefits, and you know the government's desire to try and get people back to work, you know, and not have so many foreigners in the country. Sorry, I am being political now, but you know that's their aim. They want to get these people into work. But it's not the type of work that those people can do necessarily.
Great. Sorry, yeah, no, do come in. Yeah. Let me just bring the mic to you. Sorry.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share something because you know, people are saying about trying to attract, you know, engage with older people, and in terms of physical and mental well-being as well, which is so important. So I work for WRCC, and I know Nye as well very well, and you know, lots of other people here as well. So what we do, we've been working with Cadent actually for the last 3 years. So you have the centres for warmth, which are very much in deprived urban areas as well. So we work in the Warwickshire network, Warwickshire and Solihull, in the more rural areas, which is where our charities traditionally work for 85 odd years. With the Warm Hubs project, we have 14 permanent all-round year hubs, similar to the Centres for Warmth. But last year and this year, we've actually been, for grants from Cadent and then another funder, we've been able to give grants to community groups who actually want to start new centres so they can have winter warm hubs. And what we do with these, we work with the partners. I mean, you're so right about collaboration. And I'm just going to use one hub as an example. They came on board last year as a winter warm hub. Once a month, they have 90 people. They have older people. They've got a huge team of volunteers. They've got more cakes in one room I've ever seen in my life. And they also have a separate room which is for children. So they cover quite a wide demographic area. And at first, there's a little bit of resistance because they know their community. You know, we're a charity, so we're there to help and to bring people together, but we don't know the community in the way that they do. But what we have worked with them now for the past few months, and they now have an additional soup and roll event once a month, which attracts more people. They now have a seated Pilates group, which we've helped them. We've put them in touch with organisations to get funding for that. And that's, you know, they've loved that. It's really popular. They've had citizens' advice in a few times. They've had Warwickshire Health Watch in a few times. They've had Warwickshire Libraries in, because digital exclusion is a massively important thing in rural areas. Yeah. And so we're helping them to actually do some slow cooking courses. But of course, you know, you can do a slow cooking course, you can have, you know what you want to buy, you might not be able to buy it in your rural area because you've got a local shop. And if you don't drive, you haven't got transport in the rural area, what do you do? So the digital exclusion is really important there as well. And then what we're also doing, again, with partners like NEA, we've recently had 50 volunteers across Warwickshire and Solihull have been trained in the last couple of weeks on community energy champion advice by NEA. So we're trying to work with all these partners, and we're using the hubs as part of a network to bring people together in exactly the way that's been mentioned. So I'm just saying that's what we're trying to do in Warwickshire and Solihull.
No, that's great. I was hoping we would be able to share examples of that.
Well, we had 92 hubs last winter, and it's building up again this winter, I can tell you.
We know that it's going to be a tough winter as well. I don't want to lose the point that Ed from Leicester City Council was making. Ed was talking about linking into mental and physical services as well, and also this concern about the loss of the household support fund. Yeah.
On that point, and not that our frontline do this, but the beauty of kind of piggybacking onto what you've just said there, of if we make a referral to a centre for warmth, or we direct somebody to a centre for warmth, not only does that person then get the benefits of energy advice and maximisation, but also a wider range of stuff what's going on at the centre or the community centre, where you do find groups to talk about mental health, or if people do, like I said it when I was presenting earlier, you know, they pop in for a cup of tea and a chat, and it's talking to like-minded people in the community who they have a connection with, not necessarily somebody who's knocked on the front door for a gas leak, but, you know, if they feel they need to talk to somebody, they go into the community. So that I wanted to link that point of, if we direct somebody to the centre, it's not always just for the stuff what was on the slide, but it's a wider range of services that the community hold as well.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah.
I was just going to share just an insight into a project. So I also work for Cadent, talking about physical health issues. So we're currently just starting a project in the West Midlands with the NHS, one of the NHS charities, which will mean that we're creating a team which will look after people who come out of hospital and try and stop them from going back into hospital. So we're talking about physical health. A lot of people come out of hospital, they go into a cold home, they go into a home that's not well heated, and they don't look after themselves, and then they end up back costing the NHS money and going back into hospital. So that's another side of some of the stuff that we're doing, which is hopefully something that eventually we can roll out into other NHS partnerships.
And it would be very remiss of me not to mention that we at NEA are in partnership with our colleagues at Leicester City Council on a programme that's called Leicester Energy Action, but the funding for that came from Health Fund, came from the Integrated Care Board, on the premise that, precisely that, you know, that if we target those people that are most likely to fall into ill health, we're going to get through to people who would not otherwise be getting the kind of support that we're able to offer. We've got time, I think, for like one last question, so I'll hand over to Stuart. And there's one right at the back there, Stuart, of course.
My question was for Linda, or the whole panel actually. Really impressive the work you're doing, and I always get excited when I hear about welfare rights workers doing work around judicial review. I think there should be more of that sort of work going on. But actually, where is the best balance or mix between kind of high volume income maximisation work with kind of limited assurance of outcomes, and the kind of work that you're doing, which I guess is quite expensive and time consuming to do, but definitely does achieve outcomes which you can actually specifically point to. So that's the question. Thanks.
Who would like to start?
Yes, before I worked for Vivid, I worked for a housing advice centre and citizens advice, and I worked under a legal aid contract. So I was definitely, you had to look at whether or not you could justify opening the case, all of that kind of stuff. The luxury of working for a housing association is I can open any case I like, really. Nobody's going to be judging me for it, and I can do whatever I want. So if I want to spend a couple of hours on doing, thinking about whether somebody needs a judicial review, phoning Child Poverty Action Group up, I can do that. But that is a luxury, and I understand that not everybody else has got that. But even those people that don't have that luxury, Child Poverty Action Group does have a really good judicial review project with lots of template letters that anybody can use. All they ask is that you run the letter past them before you use it. And, we're talking about things like mixed-age couples under Universal Credit who have been really shafted by the system, I think. And we've done judicial review or threatened judicial review on those sort of cases. So, anybody can do it with a little bit of help, I think. So, that's all I've got to say, really.
Did you want to come in there, Rob? Yep.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Once the case goes beyond what we would consider the normal income max price, we just talking about collaboration, when it gets super specialist or we think it might go to appeal or something like that, something that's beyond our normal remit, we work with the likes of Income Max to help out there. We have lots of good examples of backdated payments and lump sum payments, which is great. We work with, in addition to what we already do, we work with Entitled To, Income Max, and we're looking at working with policy and practice as well. So we're constantly looking to fine-tune what we do to make sure we're not missing anybody. So just in the spirit of collaboration, which is what we're all about at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much to you and for the questions. I think we're just running to the end of time now. So just by way of summary, I just wanted to say, what prompted us to do this session is that as many of us, and we are an organisation that offers energy advice, the days of being able to give people energy efficiency advice to save money or to take them through a switching process to get them onto a better tariff, those are not the advice cases that we are routinely dealing with now in the midst of an energy crisis. It's challenging to organisations like ourselves, but it's challenging to all of us. So I think what we wanted to do in this session was to say, well, obviously the focus in terms of anything around energy advice is now so much broader that really things like partnership are a no-brainer. We've got to work in partnership. And what we wanted to do this session, I think what we have done, I hope you'll agree, is we wanted to do something about present unvarnished what the challenges are, but also to do some sort of celebration of the resilience, I think, that there is in the sector, and how we're responding to that challenge. It seems to me that there's a couple of things that we might want to just conclude. What opportunities are presented by going through a crisis like this? And it seems to me that amongst those opportunities are the forging of effective community partnerships where we can bring different areas of expertise together. I don't think we've got an option not to do that. It's not easy to do, and obviously we've had some examples of that how that works on the panel, but we need more help to be able to forge those effective partners. There are other things, it's the gathering and the sharing and the analysing of data where it's possible to do that. Where can we put in the protocols in order to be able to ensure that the collective information that we're gathering as organisations can be shared so that we can ensure that those who need the help the most get it. And there's something about recognising that all organisations, especially advice organisations, are very stretched, but we're all facing the same challenges. So what can we do to find effective ways of delivering mutual support to each other as well? I think those are the things that there's some questions in there, but I think those are some of the things that have come out of our session. We will conclude there, and I'd like first of all to thank the panel very much for presenting to us this afternoon. We are going into a short break now, so we've got the long hike back to the main hall where there'll be tea and coffee. And at 4 o'clock, we've got the final session, which is looking at what the prospects the general election might have for fuel poor households.